You already know the Big Muff, the DS1, and the Rat are all iconic distortion pedals. But have you ever compared them side to side to see which one you like the best? So today that's what we're going to do. We're going to compare all of them. In this video, we're going to compare all three pedals and see which one's right for you. Let me know down in the comments which pedal that you like and which one you think is going to sound the best. Okay, so first we're going to put them through a clean amp. Then we're going to put them through an Overdriven amp. And then we're going to listen to them all in a mix. But first, a short history. The Big Muff was released in 1969 by Electro Harmonix. It was the first of the three to come out, arguably the most popular. It was played by such notable players as David Gilmour, Jay Mascis, Billy Corgan, Jack White, on and on and on. So many people have played this pedal. The DS1 came out almost a decade later in 1978. It was released by Boss and has been played by such players as John Frusciante, Steve Vai, Robert Smith, and of course, Kurt Cobain. And last but not least, the Rat came out around the same time at the end of 78, beginning of 79, and has been played by such notable players as Dave Grohl, Graham Coxon, Thurston Moore, Tom York. The list just goes on and on. One thing all these pedals have in common is they were really popular in the 90s alternative scene. So for our first comparison, we're going to go into a clean amp. For the Big Muff, I'm going to be using the JHS Muffaletta set on the Civil War setting. And for the Rat, I'm going to be using the Jam Pedals Rattler. And for the DS1, it's just a regular DS1. So to me, the Big Muff sounds like if George Foreman boxed you in the ears and then shoved your head in a blown out speaker. Whereas the DS1 sounds like your teeth are hooked up to a car battery and a 100-watt Marshall at the same time. And the Rat sounds like a guitar plugged into a chainsaw plugged directly into your ears. I think the Rat comes out on top on this comparison. It sounds better into a clean amp than the other two. We also have to take into account it can be difficult to make these kind of comparisons because using a different guitar or a different EQ setting on the amp, all these things are going to change and maybe make one pedal sound better over the other. So we have to take these for what they are, just a simple comparison. A full comparison would take hours to do and nobody's going to watch that video. All right, next up, we're going into an Overdriven amp. pedals sound better to my ear into an overdriven amp. It brings the life out of them, kind of smooths out the roughness of the highs in a lot of the pedals. The Big Muff is great. It has that thick, sludgy sound, great for slow and heavy music. While the DS1 has a more trashy sound that's good for leads or punk rock music. And I felt like the Rat was still, again, more versatile than the other ones. Was good from low gain settings all the way to like a big blown out fuzz. And yes, all these pedals can do many different things, but I'm just talking about the strongest case scenarios for all of them. All right, next is going to be a comparison and a full mix. This is a song I wrote. There's a link below if you want to check out the full song and what the original mix sounds like. We're going to put all 3 pedals through and just give you an idea of what they sound like with bass, drums, and vocals and everything. And all the pedals are going into the Friedman Little Sister, and the amp is overdriving in this scenario.
Take me out of the crowd. I just wanna find out what it's all about. Take me out of the crowd. I just wanna find out what it's all about. Take me out of the crowd. I just wanna find out what it's all about. Take me out of the crowd. I just wanna find out what it's all about. Take me out of the crowd. I just wanna find out what it's all about. Take me out of the crowd. I just wanna find out what it's all about.
So to me in the mix, the DS1 sounded best for the rhythm and leads parts. Next up I would say is the Rat, and then last I would say is the Big Muff. Although I was surprised about how good the Big Muff sounded in this more upbeat punk rock track. I think in a scenario with a slower, heavier song, the Big Muff might have done a lot better and come out on top. Now if I were going to actually record the song with these pedals, I would probably use the DS1 on one side and then the Rat on the other, just to get some contrast between the guitar parts. But just for demonstration purposes, I think the DS1 sounded best overall. All right, let me know in the comments which one you thought sounded best in the mix. Really, if you could get them all, you should. They're all amazing pedals. They all sound great. You can get versions of them for not very much money. So they're really accessible to people. I had to put one on my board. It's going to depend on what the scenario is. If I'm going into an overdriven amp, I'm going to pick the DS1. But if the amp is clean, then I would go with the Rat because I thought it sounded better. So if I was looking for what would go best in a variety of scenarios, then I'm going to have to go with the Rat. It sounds the best, in my opinion, into a clean amp and sounds great into an overdriven amp. And so that versatility from low gain to high gain is just going to put it on top. And so I'm going to have to say the Rat is the winner. So if you like this video, you would probably like this one too.